For many Singaporeans, this budget addresses some of the key concerns that they have in an increasingly uncertain world. First, it provides broad-based assistance with the cost of living. While inflation seems to be lower in the last quarter, people are still adjusting to higher prices of the last few years. Against this backdrop, the continuation of the CDC vouchers and GST vouchers will be appreciated, especially by families with lower incomes who look forward to these. The CDC vouchers also encourage spending with our local merchants and small business owners in the heartlands, whose businesses have been impacted over the last few years. Second, we are living in an age where jobs and work are facing disruption like never before. The latest disruptor is artificial intelligence. Many companies, including major tech companies and banks, have announced job cuts and restructuring over the last few years. The government's intervention in providing assistance for retraining through Skills Future, as well as, importantly, generous allowances that make up for lost income while people retrain, will be important buffers for people as they cope with this disruption. Related to this, there is extensive government spending as well as tax breaks in a range of sectors, including heavy investments in transport, education, and health infrastructure, as well as tax breaks for qualifying tech startups. I would suggest that it will be important to tie and track these investments against local job creation as far as possible, so that the economic opportunities being created by these investments will translate into jobs and opportunities for our people. Third, the budget provides comprehensive support for families to gently encourage people to have families and children. It is heartening to note that the government is catching up on the supply bottlenecks for construction of new HDB flats that occurred as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, and that it has plans to continue with construction of significant projects in the coming year. The delays and shortages in BTOs had been a concern over the last few years, especially for young couples hoping to start families, and I'm glad that we're now crossing this hill. One point I would ask for, though, is for the government to consider bringing back larger HDB flat formats. This will be important if we want families to have more children. Currently, the largest flat formats in BTOs are 5-room flats, and these generally have 3 bedrooms. If we are considering multi-generation families or families with more children, 3 bedrooms may not be enough for them. Many have given feedback that as children get older, they prefer to have their own rooms. Additionally, large families may need domestic help, and domestic helpers will also need their own bedrooms under the law. Now, I understand that the reason for holding back on development of larger flat types in recent years has been that there did not seem to be much demand for them amongst first-time buyers. But I think it's also important for us to consider not just first-time buyers, such as young couples, but also older, middle-aged couples who have higher incomes but are also likely to have larger families and extended families to care for. Many of the older, large HDB flats, such as jumbo flats, are popular and fetch high prices in the resale markets, which suggests that it would be good to have a pipeline of new supply of them as well. I had also argued for the socialization of early childcare costs from my early days in this House, even before I was married or had a child of my own. My view was that given that having more children is a national priority that benefits the country, more of the costs should be socialized rather than privately borne by the parents in the early years. Costs for older children from primary school onwards are generally well covered, but the earlier costs when couples have lower incomes may have been a concern. Now, I'm glad that this budget continues with the government's plans over the years of subsidizing a greater part of these costs. The cost of early childcare will now be comparable to the costs at the primary school level of education. Now, I welcome this move. Additionally, there is significant financial support for families with 3 or more children. These measures will hopefully make it easier for couples who decide to have children to have bigger families as well. Mr. Deputy Speaker, in Tamil, please. சிங்கப்பூரில் தமிழ் மொழியை ஆதரிக்கும் நிகழ்ச்சிகளுக்கு அரசாங்கம் வெகுவாக ஆதரவு வழங்கி வருகிறது. நான் தலைமை தாங்கி வரும் தமிழ் மொழி கற்றல் வளர்ச்சி குழு கல்வி அமைச்சின் கீழ் வரும் ஒரு குழுவாகும். அது வகுப்பறைகளுக்கு வெளியில் தமிழ் மொழி கற்றலை ஊக்குவிக்கும் பல்வேறு முக்கிய நிகழ்ச்சிகளை கொண்டுள்ளது. பள்ளி செல்லும் மாணவர்களுக்கான நடவடிக்கைகள் ஏற்பாடு செய்யும் சமூக அமைப்புகளின் முயற்சிகளுக்கும் இக்குழு ஆதரவளித்து வருகிறது. மேலும் நான் ஆலோசகராக இருந்து வரும் வளர்தமிழ் இயக்கம் தேசிய மரபுடைமை கழகத்தின் கீழ் வருகிறது. சிங்கப்பூரில் தமிழ் மொழியின் பயன்பாட்டை ஊக்குவிப்பதோடு ஒவ்வொரு வருடமும் 40க்கும் மேற்பட்ட பல்வேறு சமூக அமைப்புகளின் நிகழ்ச்சிகளை உள்ளடக்கிய தமிழ்மொழி விழாவையும் அது ஏற்பாடு செய்து வருகிறது. சிங்கப்பூரில் தமிழ் மொழியை தொடர்ந்து துடிப்புடன் வைத்திருக்க இம்முயற்சிகள் உதவுகின்றன. இவ்வருட வரவு செலவு திட்டத்தில் SG கலாசார சிறப்பு தொகை என 300 மில்லியன் வெள்ளி ஒதுக்கீடு செய்யப்பட்டுள்ளது. இது ஒவ்வொரு சிங்கப்பூரருக்கும் உள்ளூர் கலை நிகழ்ச்சிகளுக்கு செலவிட 100 வெள்ளி வழங்கப்படுவதற்கு இணையாகும். சிங்கப்பூரின் இந்திய கலை சமூகம் செழிப்பான ஒன்று. இந்நிதியை பயன்படுத்தி உள்ளூர் குழுக்கள் நிகழ்ச்சிகள் ஏற்பாடு செய்வதையொட்டி பரிசீலிக்க நான் அதிகம் ஊக்குவிக்கிறேன். இந்த சிறப்பு தொகையை செப்டம்பர் 2025 தொடங்கி 2028 இறுதி வரை பயன்படுத்திக் கொள்ளலாம் என்பதால் குழுக்கள் நடவடிக்கைகளை திட்டமிட நல்ல அவகாசம் உள்ளது. Mr. Deputy Speaker, this is a wide-ranging budget that provides support that Singaporeans need in a range of areas, including dealing with the cost of living, employment, and having families. I support this budget.